What happens if large, established, nationwide retailers and brands stop accepting Visa? Are their sales going to plummet? Are they going to go out of business? Are they going to lose billions of dollars? Nobody really knows. Visa's been around for a long time, but Kroger is about to find out. Now, before I get into that, I have to explain, because if you're like me, Kroger, you probably thought of as like a mid-sized company. Well, Kroger is actually a conglomerate that has purchased, thousands. They have 2,778 locations nationwide because they've purchased all of these different grocery stores. So they are actually the third largest employer in the U.S. You have Walmart, and then you have Amazon, and then Kroger. So Kroger is humongous. And what happened is Kroger decided to stop accepting Visa at their subsidiary in California. So a very large business there in California, they've said, we're not accepting Visa any longer. Now, this is going to have huge ripple effects across the industry if, as Bloomberg News has reported, they are going to roll this out nationwide. That will have huge ripple effects. So before I get into the ripple effects and how this is going to affect you and your business, your merchant services business, I want to talk about why Kroger decided to do this. So I'm going to try my best to give you some numbers. If you look at the blog article on ccsalespro.com, you can actually see the numbers, but I'll give them to you from memory and try to get as close as I can. So last year, 2017, Kroger did about $122.66 billion in revenue, okay? But they only made $1.907 billion in profit. So that's a 1.55% margin. So, out of every dollar that Kroger gets in sales, they're making 1.505 cents out of every dollar. Okay, that's very, very little. When your margins are that low, interchange fees become a really big problem. I mean, keep in mind, the average interchange cost in the U.S. is 1.7%. Now, it's a lot lower for a grocery store, especially one like Kroger, but it still is a very significant number. So the reason that Kroger decided to drop Visa is that if you think about it, what is the only reason that you wouldn't want to drop Visa? Well, Visa costs money as a business. So for a business to not accept Visa, the only reason they wouldn't want to do that is that they're afraid that they're going to lose sales. Well, if Kroger lost 5% of its total revenue nationwide, which would be a massive drop, that would be about, I think, $6.13 billion that they would actually lose in revenue, but it would only be about $95 million in profit, okay? So they'd lose $95 million in profit there, but if making that change and saying we don't want Visa anymore, if that caused more people to go to their own MasterCard that they have dual branded, or to go to like cash payments or some other option, let's say it saved them 20 basis points across the board on all their other remaining revenue, like $117 billion left over that they would do, that would actually bring them $245 million in profit from those 20 basis points. So the thing about Kroger is that they're in a unique position where they can afford to lose a lot of revenue and still increase their profits because their margins are so low that if they can cut costs even a little bit, 20 basis points of cost, then it's a huge win for them and they're going to make a lot more money. So that's why Kroger specifically is considering a nationwide rollout and why they've stopped accepting cards in their California locations. But how does this all affect you and why does this story matter? I'm sure most of you have seen this story, but you might be wondering, what's the big picture? If we zoom out, why do I care? I'm a sales rep. I'm an ISO. What's the big deal? Well, there are three primary ripple effects that I believe this would have on the payments industry. And this is my opinion. I could be totally wrong. I've definitely been wrong before. But these are what I think. This is what I think could happen in the payments industry. So number one on my list, Visa's brand invincibility would take a major hit in the marketplace. Visa's brand invincibility would take a major hit in the marketplace. So Visa has positioned itself as the only indispensable partner in payments. You've got to take Visa. I mean, the Visa brand is so big and so many consumers are so loyal to it, and all of these ideas and things that they've put into our heads and the heads of business owners around the country. If a major retailer stopped taking Visa, imagine if Kroger stopped taking Visa and their sales only dropped 2%. And imagine if in doing that, they increased their profits by $300 million. If something like that was to happen in, the next 12-month period in 2019, let's say, that would have enormous ripple effects because that would be data that Walmart is going to look at. Imagine if Walmart stopped accepting Visa. Do you think that would hurt Visa a little bit? Yeah. The issuing banks, the kind of pressure that will put on them. And so it would just really damage Visa's brand in the mind of business owners across the country in terms of, this fundamental question that is, do I need to accept cards? And that's something our entire industry is really built upon. I mean, if business owners start to think they don't need to accept credit cards anymore, we have kind of a big problem. And so it's just something that could be a ripple effect where it's going to damage Visa's brand in a pretty significant way. Possibly. We'll see what happens. Number 2, future battles in the legislature and in the Supreme Court would be affected by this outcome. Now, this is an area that might actually play to Visa's favor a little bit if you think about it. Most of the court cases now that have to do with the payments industry revolve around, is Visa, MasterCard, the issuing banks, and American Express, are they forming a monopoly of sorts? Is it becoming to the point where it's not practical? You can't really compete with Visa anymore. They're just too big. They need to be regulated, all these things. That's what Visa is fighting in the courts and in the legislatures, is this perception. Because again, you need to, if you really want to zoom out, I mean, look around the world. We're the only developed nation really left that hasn't regulated interchange fees. And Visa is very aware of this. They're only able to get 0.3, 0.4% for their issuing banks in interchange fees over in the UK. Australia, they just had to they voluntarily lowered their interchange rates in Canada just about a month ago in order to avoid another big regulation. So, Visa understands that the U.S. is the golden, the goose that lays the golden eggs, right? It's like, this is where they're making all their profits because it's not regulated. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to avoid this perception that, they're a monopoly. Well, now they can go to the courts and say, how can you say we're a monopoly? The third largest business in the country just randomly decided to stop accepting our cards. And look at them. If somebody doesn't want to take our card, just don't take our card. If you don't want to pay our fees, don't accept our card. If you want to accept our card, pay our fees. So it really helps them to position it more as, hey, this is just a good old free market. This is what it is. If you don't want to pay our fees, then don't accept our card. Number 3. This battle could keep Visa's focus off of cash discounting and make it a little harder to fight it. So, this is a really interesting one because if you think about it, this whole battle, this whole kind of positioning, it's the kind of thing that if I was out in the field full-time selling cash discounting right now, I would definitely be talking about this Kroger situation. I really would, and I mean, I'd say, look, it's the third largest, retailer in the country, and they're basically saying, hey, these interchange fees have gotten too high. This is the time for you to fight back. And, the merchants can even tell their customers, when their customers come in, they're like, what's the service fee? And they're like, well, Kroger actually just decided to stop accepting Visa altogether because the fees were so high. We decided that would be much too inconvenient on our clients. So instead, what we did is we implemented a small price increase, but we're going to offer a discount whenever you pay with cash. So that way you have the power of choice to decide if you want to use your Visa or if you want to use MasterCard or if you want to use cash. But, we're offering a deal if you pay with cash. And so this could have ripple effects though, because, is this, let's say 2019 comes along, let's say January 2019, Kroger rolls this out nationwide. Well, they're going to have to justify this because this is going to inconvenience millions and millions of consumers every day that have a Visa card. How are they going to justify it? What do you think Kroger's going to do? Are they going to sit back? Are they just not going to say anything? No. They're going to have a huge campaign that says Visa's fees are too expensive. That's why we stopped accepting them. So we're sorry that we're inconveniencing you, but we can't afford to pay Visa's rates anymore. They're way too high. So all of a sudden, millions and millions of consumers are going to become more aware of interchange costs and how high they are. So is that really the best time for Visa to go on the attack against businesses and say, you don't have the right to pass our costs on to consumers? I don't know. They could, but that'd be pretty challenging for them to go after that. So it really could kind of keep their focus off of it and make it a little harder to fight the cash discounting. And again, it also should help you to kind of frame the cash discounting. So, in closing, I mean, honestly, I was a little surprised just to find out how big Kroger was, how big of a deal this was when I really was able to dig into it. But I think what's going to happen here is it's very possible that the large retailers could finally get together and have the leverage that they need. The one thing that could really bring Visa to its knees and bring them to the negotiating table on interchange rates, and that would be not accepting Visa. So this is just an interesting thing, something I'm really excited to kind of see how it plays out. I think it could be good for us, could be bad for us, but it's always exciting to watch these big players duke it out. My name is James Shepard. Have an awesome day.